Hi guys. Hi guys. It's
Hiya.
Jim and Ginger. Now,
Hey.
we might have more people join us, but we put it out there anyway. What we wanted to talk about was Celestine Prophecy. And what we were talking about, and we talked about all kinds of things, just been rabbiting on, but one of the things that we hit upon was saying that with the 9 insights of the Celestine Prophecy, I originally read the Celestine Prophecies back in the mid 90s, 1990, maybe 1994, maybe. What about you? When did you read it?
It's been out for a long while. I know I've recommended it for many years. I'm not sure what year it was that I read it, but really great book. Around the same time I read The Alchemist, another great book.
Yeah,
The two remind me, they go hand in hand in my mind.
yeah. So what I was saying about the Celestine Prophecy was that it's like one of those books that every time you retouch on it, you see something that you didn't see before. You read, you think, oh, I don't remember that being there, or you read one of the insights and you think, oh, I didn't think that that meant that,
It's
and
as
it
though we couldn't take it in at that time. And suddenly something that we will are able to absorb and appreciate. It's like it was never there. How could this be there? How did I miss this? We didn't have the capacity to see it before.
so I'm going to
We didn't
share
have
I'm
the
going to share the
knowledge.
screen and I'm going to bring up um
Love that image.
bring that up. Thank you. I'm going to bring that up. So uh the central one, two, three, 4, 5, 6. That's only six. I'll have to do a search afterwards and bring up the rest of them. But this is what it says, right? The first one is that we're in the midst of accelerating transformation of how we see the world. Well, that's definitely paramount in relation to our views of the world shifting so dramatically since 1995, which is now almost 30 years ago.
Oh, that's hard to take in. That's wow. Yikes. All
Okay.
right. And so I'm reminded of the magician in the midst of accelerating transformation of how we see our world. And the magician to me is about transformation. We have all the tools. What will we do with it?
Mhm. And from the point of view of real reflection in relation to how things have dramatically changed, and I'm not sure whether this applies to across the board because you'd have to speak to somebody else to see if they saw things completely differently. And a lot of the people that I deal with in real life are around about my age. So I don't have very much, but you do. You have a lot of contact across the generations.
I'm
Um,
very fortunate. I have all ages, and I will say age is just a number. The spirit is eternal. You can sense that in animals. You can sense that in the people, and we've all got a very special song to sing.
but do the younger people sense the transformation as well, is my question.
Most definitely, and most powerfully. It's my sense that they are trying to teach us,
Mhm.
and they're so grateful to find people that are aware. And I'm honored to be in their circles, and yeah, just grateful for the relationships that we've developed in my community and in my family and in our friend circles. I think it's been a really powerful time of transformation for all of us, and a time for us to learn new ways and really begin to question the old ways. What were we thinking?
So the term spiritual, I mean, to me, kind of means uh, the embracement of all, not giving the entire focus of your life to material endeavors. So that spiritual kind of means, yes, being self-responsible, but also being like assisting to help people as well, as much as they come across your path, kind of thing. And it's almost like it's not necessarily related to God, although there is a lot of etheric principles and a lot of etheric knowledge. And to me, the central focus is how we are creating our own worlds and what we're actually doing to assist that to make a better world for everybody, but really through knowledge of self and knowledge of how we're creating or the good or the bad, how we're creating the good or the bad, and then taking the responsibility for that. So, do you disagree or agree with that?
No, I agree with that. And I think that children are more likely to be, so they're less weighed down with the day-to-day mundane tasks and such that adults have, weighing them down. So I do think that children are a little more lighthearted overall and far more attuned to the knowing. And I feel that this is what we're all becoming more aware of. And it's been quite an experience to witness people becoming aware of their own identity. Who am I? And, learning through lessons of astrology and numerology that there's a pattern. And just like our fingerprints, we're all very unique.
Mm,
And there has to be room for everyone. One size does not fit all.
no.
And so to have respect for one another as we venture, through this together.
Mm-hmm. All right. So the second one is we see the purpose of our life is spiritual growth through loving action, not just survival in the materialistic world. The only way that we can truly advance individually and collectively is through opening to the full dimension of who we are, following intuitive guidance and helping others rather than working to advance our own interests, which is
That's
kind of,
kind of what you were just saying, ain't
yeah, just in different words, weird.
Yeah,
All right.
that very much to me is the energy, and it's the second bullet and the 9 insights.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I just want to highlight that it reminds me of the energy of the high priestess, and that tarot card has the number 2 attached to it, which is how we do our numerology. We
Yeah,
look at the energy of those numbers accordingly to
yeah.
those first 9 characters in the major arcana.
So
I've been curious to see whether or not that, because I didn't have this knowledge when I read the Celestine Prophecy. So I'm very curious to see if this plays through. The next one should be reminiscent of the High Priestess, or sorry, the Empress,
I
if
can
my
remember,
theory is kind
I
of
could,
accurate.
I can remember a friend of mine at that time having 2 children, and she was becoming aware of this. I don't know what they call it. I think it's the fourth insight, and it's like where somebody steals energy from the next person through a specific energy. And what she was aware of is that her husband would walk in the room and he'd pick on the son, and he'd pick on the son through being an interrogator. And being the interrogator, what he'd do is he would say, "Have you done your homework?" But then he'd be firing the next question at him before he'd even had a chance to answer the first. So, like, have you done your homework? Did you complete it all? Have you got this done? What about the task I left you? Did you get that done? But he'd be firing questions at his son before he even had a chance to answer. And she'd notice the difference in her son. And her son would turn on her daughter
Mm,
and he'd become a bully. So he's sort of like hitting the door with something, whereas he'd been fine before the husband had come home. And then the daughter would come up to her and do the two bit to me, he's picking on me, he's picking on me, make him stop. And she'd be doing the poor me onto this friend. And this friend was saying she's just watching this energy depletion go around the room and how each person was actually demonstrating one of these particular characters as put in by Celestine Prophecy, and that she just thought it was mind blowing that you could see it in the dynamic of the family.
That's interesting. I think it's like that for all of us, but then again, we develop that awareness through our studies and observations.
Yeah.
You know, as this information becomes more readily available. I remember when I first started searching for this information, it was very limited. Like to find a few reliable sources of information was quite a
Mm-hmm.
challenge.
Mm-hmm. It was. Most of, I mean, most of the energy, especially around the 90s, was focused around think and get rich, was sort of like this focus of how can I feather my own nest? What's the best way to achieve success? What is success? A lot of it was focused around that. And even The Secret to some degree was essentially that came out in around about 2000.
Hmm.
And that was essentially focused on materialistic, the amount of people that had drawn up boards of things that they wished, and there's a boat and there's a house and there's a anyway.
Well, that was our interpretation of it. I had a very different interpretation because I don't have a great desire for materialistic goods. I think that, there's a reason for it. There's a need in this realm for us to, live comfortably. But like, what do we really need? So for me, I looked at it more in terms of creating a peaceful surroundings for myself and how far could I take it? Could I imagine world peace? And like really stretching the imagination in that direction where a lot of people, you're right, Kim, headed towards, show me the money. And for me, I think money's got a funny energy. So it's not something I ask for. I ask for all that I give thanks for, and as I ask for all that I need, because I know that if I'm asking, it's already done.
i'm not
It's
i'm
already
not
done.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing either, because all of us
No,
need to be able to have a roof
yeah,
over our head. It's just how we give focus to that, but that's not really what this is about.
that is
So
true though. What you're saying, I think a lot of people see it as, that's going to solve problems, and it doesn't.
no, it doesn't. Anyway, next one is we understand that we are a divine being temporary in a physical body. um I,
Now, does that feel like the Empress to you? It does to me.
yeah,
I get that sense because I think
yeah,
of the Empress as being, very Mother Earth
yeah.
and pregnant with possibility.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we understand we are a divine being temporarily in a physical body. What are we birthing? What are we
Yeah.
going to do while we're in this astronaut suit? Maybe we are the astronauts. Maybe this avatar, this suit that we wear, that we occupy as spirit. Um, you know, I wonder.
So next one,
I lost the plot, as you would say, Kim. I wonder.
I lost the plot.
Yeah, I'll
The,
wonder, and maybe it'll come back.
the next one is we're in communication with the spiritual dimension in the form of intuitive knowledge, synchronicities, metanormal events, and healing miracles. Now, it's quite interesting we bring this one up because this was one of the subjects that we were talking about before we actually started to record, which was the idea that when these unusual synchronicities occur to us, we actually pull them out of the hat and say, oh my God, that was so weird. This happened. But Nigel had this thing about normalizing, like having a mindset of those synchronicities being normal, or us accepting that those synchronicities are normal. So, say for instance, and I use this as an example for you earlier on, if I'm going for a job and I go outside the door and I drop my keys down the drain, I'm going for an interview for a job, right? Drop the keys down the drain, go, oh God. So come back in the house, get the stuff to get the keys out of the drain, get the keys out of the drain, get the car started, go to back out the drive, and there's a truck blocking the entrance to my gate. Now, if we were to look at that and think, okay, I'm being blocked here.
That's a form of resistance. So it's like, obviously, this is not my lane. I'm going uphill or down, I'm not going downstream, I'm going upstream. There's a great amount of resistance trying to keep you from doing that. Even if it's just to detain you, sometimes I think, boy, I wonder what I'm missing up
Yes.
ahead. I see it as a form of protection sometimes,
So the
but most often I see it as resistance. And so then to me,
so
it's
the
a no.
the obvious one would be I'm not meant to go for this job.
Correct. That's what I
That would
mean
be
when I
the
say for
obvious
me, it's a
conclusion.
no.
But
Yes, I shouldn't do this.
I then come back in the house and then call the people and they say, well, listen, we'd still like to interview you. We've got a slot available at 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Then it might be that I was meant to be the last person to be interviewed.
That's
It
right.
might mean that I wasn't meant to be the first person to be interviewed because they needed to have it was a better slot for me. They would be in a better, they met all these other people and they just didn't fit. And then I come in last and I'm the best fit so far, but maybe not ideal. But so it doesn't necessarily mean what you think it might mean. It doesn't mean to say you have to throw the baby out with the bathwater um, just because you lost your keys and somebody blocked you from getting out the driveway. It might not mean what you think it means. And I often give it like 2 or 3 uh bashes towards that way, like so the next day get up and go through the whole thing. And if the same thing happens or I get the same amount of resistance, I'm not going to carry on. I'm going to go, okay, well, that's enough for me. I've tried
That's
twice.
enough. Yeah,
It's
that's exactly right. It's this is not for me. And sometimes you just even to take that as a sign and say, okay, why is all this happening? And then as you start to ask those questions, you'll get answers. And, why is this happening? And you might learn that this just isn't the right time. You might learn that, tomorrow is a better day, as you were saying. Um, you might have been avoiding an accident, which I discovered one day. I was so annoyed to be detained and not able to get to where I was going when I thought I should be. And I was so annoyed. And then I got to a point along the way where I'm pretty sure I missed an accident. And I just, after that, I said, oh boy, I just, I give thanks for those kinds of experiences now rather than get frustrated and angry. I just think, well, you know, things happen for a reason, and I wasn't supposed to be there at that time. And so if I'm late, then I'm supposed to be late. If I'm early, it's all by design.
yeah,
But it's designed the way we think it'll work out. So if
yeah,
we think it's going to be a challenge, it will be.
yeah.
And if we think it's easy, it will be.
Yeah.
And though that's sort of the awareness that I'm speaking of.
Mm. Okay, I can kind of debate that though, because I can honestly say that sometimes I'm really looking forward to going to a party
Yes,
and I go to a party and it's just shit.
yes,
And then on other occasions, I'm really not looking forward to going to a party and I go to the party and it can be good. So the reverse of that can be true too.
that's quite true, Kim. That's quite true. Good
Uh,
point.
right. So the next one
Back to the
is
mystery.
it's actually not the right one, this because it's not the 9 insights, it's just somebody's interpretation of them, but that's okay. We'll go back and cover the 9 insights in a second.
Yeah,
Most of us have chosen to be here, and we choose the circumstances that would strengthen our soul's character and contribute to the holding of the world vision. Okay, I'd agree that we've chosen to be here, and I would agree that we've chosen the circumstances, and I would agree that I think that we're actually here to strengthen our soul's character. I think that's what we're doing.
I agree. And
Um,
if we're not in the right lane, we'll be put in the right lane.
yeah,
Does that make sense
yeah,
to you?
yeah, because it's like
Yeah,
we were talking about earlier, like souls on rails. Sometimes you're going towards something and you really, really, really want it, but your soul has a different idea, and your
that's
soul is
right.
going to hold you back from doing that or being with
Very,
that person, or it's just going to hold you back. It's just going to put everything in the way for that not to happen, and it's just pure ego that makes
it
you
is.
go for it, keep going for it, keep trying. So the last
Well,
one,
the willpower, the determination, the desire, the passion. but and also the habit.
Last one, we can learn to stay engaged rather than engage in fruitless power struggles.
Energized rather than,
Sorry,
so it says we
energized,
can,
not engaged.
yeah.
We can
So
learn to
that's
stay
true.
energized rather than, that was what I was talking about before. The girl that when the book was out, she was like, oh my goodness, like she's witnessing all of these particular energy vortexes that steal your energy, situations that steal your energy, and how you can avoid that. So I'm gonna have a look again on that site and see if I can get
Well,
one
I
that's
think
got
that's one of the, I think, most important lessons for me is that it's important for us to decide what we want to put our energy into, what benefits us. So, as we're creating new habits, what lights us up? Like what brings comfort and ease into our body? What makes us happy? We're given an opportunity to become explorers. Who are we?
I get trying to
It's gonna work.
I'll just continue with Google. Oh, go away. I just want the anyway, okay, we'll do it from here. So this is the actual 9 insights. So the first one is we're discovering again that we live in a deeply mysterious world full of sudden coincidences and synchronistic encounters that seem destined. Well, back in the 90s when this came out, that really, I mean, that was actually quite astounding. To A synchronistic concept only came into being really in that era. Prior to
And
that,
I
there was no
I
awareness of them.
personally feel like that's the cusp of the millennium that we're in. So it was like the end of the millennium of the magician and the cusp, the beginnings. We were being introduced to the concept of the energy that we're in right now. As far as I'm concerned, we're in the millennium of the high priestess, which is quite an intuitive, all-knowing. It's quite obviously starkly different energy than the magician with
Awakening.
all of the illusions.
So number two, as more of us awaken to this mystery, we will create a completely new worldview, redefining the universe as energetic and sacred. So interesting, when I saw the word universe there, I saw it as inverse.
Mm,
I don't know why I saw it
that's
as
interesting.
inverse, but
Inverse.
I always
We
see
were
the
talking
word
about that earlier.
universe being
Inverse.
one song,
Yes, that's right.
universe, one song. So as more of us wake into the mystery, we'll create a completely new worldview. I don't think that that's happened yet. I don't think that we've got enough alignment of thought between all of the people that we deal with yet for that to be uh, our worldview. I don't think we've got a consensus worldview that's
I would agree with that, but I think everything is about to change. That's what this day is all about. For me, it's still the 23rd, and it's Friday, the 23rd. So it's very much spring equinox energy. It's a time of new beginnings. And again, we're in the year of the chariot. Hold
mm,
on tight. It's not going to be a smooth ride for some of us.
mm.
And but this is and especially now with Pluto and Aquarius, we've experienced a major shift in the last couple of days, and for me, it's quite tangible.
I was saying earlier that that Pluto and Aquarius, to me, I mean, Pluto's known to be the destroyer, but I also see Pluto as the delver out of lessons. So, but quite sternly, like if you're not paying attention to the lessons that you're meant to be learning, then here comes Pluto in Aquarius, and I tell you what, you will get it absolutely blatantly put it on your face, so you cannot deny it. So if you're in a relationship that's just not working for you, then hang on to your hat, mate, because you're gonna have a really, really, really in your face,
Abrupt. It'll be quite
abrupt,
abrupt.
and then
Pluto. Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
also the Aquarius thing. I mean, recently become quite aware that the Aquarius is also not only, I mean, it's hugely mind blowing. So it's like all new concepts, but it's also the AI. So if you're doing things with a computer that you're not meant to be doing, then Pluto's coming in to tell you that you're not meant to be doing that. It'll be messing with your airstream. So an example might be if you're spending your time looking at porn, which I doubt very much that's the audience that we're
Yeah.
looking at, but the the Pluto in Aquarius would imply that Pluto's coming to disrupt that energy that you're giving focus to that doesn't exactly give focus to the spiritual aspect of life. It's going to come in and interfere.
I agree. And I don't think we're supposed to become machine-like. I think this is a very temporary
Yeah,
state.
yeah.
And I don't think it'll be so obsolete in the near future. This is what's coming is what we can at this time perceive it. And we're creating it. And that was the bullet that we were just looking at. But I wanted to go back to Pluto for a minute. For to me, it's quite a feminine energy. And I don't know if anybody remembers, but they tried to tell us that Pluto was not a planet. For me, Pluto is the cold and distant feminine planet, the mother of all mothers. And when that part of us speaks, you'll listen, you'll hear it, you'll feel it. I feel. But so now moving into the Aquarian age, it'll be quite interesting.
Mm,
What systems will shift now? Because we've gone from Capricorn, and then now this is temporary until around mid-June. I think it was June, July, and then so it retrogrades for a moment back in Capricorn, and then we'll be in this energy for the next 2 decades.
mm,
So it's pretty big deal. You
mm.
know, whatever we're sensing at this time, these are the challenges that we're going to have to overcome.
Yeah. So, number four, from this perspective, we can see that humans have always felt insecure and disconnected from the sacred source and have tried to take energy by dominating each other. See, that was the fourth insight, the one I was talking about, this friend of mine, where we're stealing the energy from each other. And the struggle is responsible for all of human conflict. So, and it becomes necessary when you feel less than. So I feel less than you, and
Hmm.
therefore I start to utilize an energy that will bring you down and elevate me. And to do that, I would use one of these categories that that book goes into in more detail in relation to. I think it names aloof in one. So I'm slightly aloof. I'm not really paying attention. I'm at the party and I'm sitting in the corner and people are coming over and saying, "Hey, Kim, are you okay?" And I'm going, "Yeah, yeah, I'm fine." But every time somebody comes over and says, "Hey, are you okay?" that I'm actually stealing energy from them. It's
That's
actually
true.
it's actually an energy vampire steal. So it names all the different ones like interrogator, aloof, bully. There's all different ones that you can do. But the way out of the loop, the way to break the loop is to actually name that. So say I'm at a party and somebody comes over and says, "Are you okay? You know, you haven't been mixing in," and I go, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, I'm absolutely fine. I'm just taking a couple of minutes out because I'm finding it a bit overwhelming." That's
Well, in a yeah, that's a good point. I like that you just confront it in that way. I'm reminded of legal matters. So when you're pulled over, you retain control by asking questions. The moment you start answering questions,
defensive.
you're no correct.
You're in the defensive.
So it's like a teeter-totter.
Yeah. And it's I mean, all of these awarenesses have come through to us in this time. So number five, the only solution to cultivate a personal reconnection with the divine A mystical transformation that fills us with unlimited energy and love, extends our perception of beauty, and lifts us into a higher self awareness. Don't quite know what that means.
I think, well, so they saying the only solution is to cultivate a personal reconnection with the divine. So I think at this time, a lot of us have established that connection with the divine. And but when this book was written, it was again impossible for us to perceive.
Yeah.
And
Personal, yeah.
so but
It's personal
yeah,
reconnection, yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So
And
yeah,
it is a mystical transformation that fills us with unlimited energy and
yeah,
love.
yeah,
And I'm excited for that part
yeah,
because I think a lot of us have been really weighed down and heavy. And love, or this is what we call it, that feeling of acceptance and gratitude and forgiveness, all that energy really lifts us and makes our tasks lighter
yeah,
and makes our avatar feel lighter.
yeah,
And we get to decide that with the language that we use, even,
yeah,
and also what we visualize. So if we visualize this is going to be impossible, it will be impossible.
yeah.
I think that we sort of create that.
So next one is number 6. In the awareness, we can release our own pattern of controlling and discover a specific truth, a mission. We are here to share that helps evolve humanity towards this new level of reality. So release, this is about releasing our own pattern of controlling. So in order to release our own pattern of controlling, we need to acknowledge that we're utilizing a pattern of controlling. And that I actually came across one the other day for myself that I thought, wow, that's still there. And what it was me being a martyr.
Yes.
And I was aware the other day that I was using that. No, no, I'm fine, don't worry. But I was like explaining prior why it was difficult for me to do X, Y, Z, and then saying, no, no, it's okay, I can deal with it. And then it came to me that I was still being the martyr. I was still holding that energy of being the martyr.
Well, and it's back to what you were saying. We say, no, no, I'm fine when we're not. And we say that's crazy when, at this time, I'm starting to wonder if it's normal.
Yeah,
Why did we ever say that was crazy? These are becoming far more normal experiences for people, the synchronicities and the knowings, those moments of aha,
which is
it's
exactly,
not so crazy anymore, is it?
that's exactly
But
what
yet
number
we
7
start
is.
telling the stories by saying, oh, this might sound crazy. Well, no, it doesn't. What's crazy is us saying, no, no, I'm fine when
The
we're not.
number 7's that though, in the pursuit of this mission, we can discover an inner intuition that shows us where to go and what to do. And if we make it only positive interpretations, it brings the flow of coincidences that opens doors for our mission to unfold. Now, we've got into quite a spiritual, talking about being spiritual, got quite a lot of problems with the idea that of remaining positive. Because there's like a difference between remaining positive and being in denial.
I agree. Well, and we have to be in acceptance. I don't think denial is not a healthy state of being. We can see people for who they are, accept them, but what's our tolerance? And if we're lying to others, if we say, oh, I'm fine, when I'm not, that's not honoring your spirit. That's not honoring your highest authority. That's
So
that's faking it. That's pretending to be okay in a situation where you're not. It's important for you to move if you're not in a good situation. It's important for us to make changes and be in the flow, which is the opposite of what you were saying earlier, Kim, about not being able to back the car up and get to where you were going. When we're in the flow, it's quite the opposite. You can't stop it from happening. It's so easy,
the problem
when we're
is that
on the right path.
it becomes a little bit overwhelming because things happen thick and fast. So
Yeah,
I'll often find that every single minute of the day, every working moment of my day is filled with something. So the
yes.
second that I hang up from you, my phone will ring. And then the second that that conversation's over, just as I'm hanging up my phone, there's somebody at my front door wanting to come in. And then it's just like boom, 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 boom. It's like when you're in the flow, it's like one thing leads to the next thing leads to the next thing is, and it's all these things that you haven't got to give energy to them. Like
You
you
don't.
don't have to answer the phone. You don't want to.
That's right. That's right.
It's about the matter of prioritizing that particular time frame that you're in at that moment. So
Correct.
so
How do
that
I feel about this?
yeah,
Asking yourself.
yeah.
These are it's the basis of self-care.
And
How do I feel? And really listening to your response and then moving accordingly. So if it doesn't feel good, stop doing it.
then that empowered stance of, say for instance, like I said, I hung up from you, the phone rings, I look at the phone, think, do I want to speak to this person right now? Yes, okay. Answer the phone. Then there's somebody at my front door. Now, previously, I would have welcomed that person in, but now I can be empowered enough to say to that person, I'd love to see you, but I just don't have the time. But
Let's set a date.
yeah, let's set a date for this. So, and the other thing is the other big shift, and I'm only talking from my own perspective here, but the other big shift is in me is that language of somebody being at the door. At one stage, I would have said, I'm sorry, I don't have the
Yes,
time. I've now tried to take the I'm sorry out of my position because I'm not really speaking my truth by saying I'm sorry. I'm just busy. I'm just busy right now. Doesn't mean to say I don't want to see you at another time. It's just right now it doesn't work.
that's right. And yeah, I think it's important to, acknowledge sometimes. So, if, for example, if you're late, instead of saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm late,"
Yeah,
it weakens our energy
yeah,
body. And it's
yeah,
not that you don't have remorse or that you don't feel sorry,
yeah.
but saying it weakens our energy body, opposed to saying something like, "I really appreciate your patience. It's been a challenging experience today. How
I
are
just
you?" You start on a totally different tone.
I want to tell you a story about that. I can't really mention the names of the people involved, but I can tell you the story. So I was working in this shop, and this lady that I was working for, somebody came into the shop and said, "Oh, there's a sale on at this shopping center, really good sale, really good clothes." And this woman I was working for said, "Oh, come on, let's shut up the shop and go and have a look." So this place we were going to was 15 minutes away. And she went out to the shop and she hung on the sign on the thing outside saying, "Be back in 15 minutes." Well, obviously we're going to be back in 15 minutes because it was 15 minutes away. And we had to get there, go into the shop, and then come back. So we're in the shop. We both bought some stuff. And then my mobile phone rang and somebody said, "Where are you? The shop's not open." It said be back in 15 minutes, and I've already been standing here for three-quarters of an hour. So we jumped in the car and we came back. And on the way back, I said to this friend, "What are you going to say to all the people waiting?" And she looked at me and she said, "Nothing." I thought, wow. I mean, me,
Why? She
I
said
would have,
nothing. She
I
she
would have,
said why, or she said nothing.
she said
She's not
nothing.
going.
She said nothing.
Nothing.
No, she said, "I'm not going to do anything." And
Oh,
what it was is if it had been me coming back from that, I would have been saying to all these people waiting, "I'm really
I'm
sorry.
sorry. I'm
Just take
sorry.
me a
I'm
couple of
sorry.
minutes to open up." But what she did was she pulled up the car, she got out of the car, she got out the keys, unlocked the shop, walked in and said, "Right, who's first?"
That's right.
And she made no acknowledgement whatsoever to the fact that she'd inconvenienced 10 people in any way. But it actually worked. she kept
Well,
her
because she
power.
was able to keep her power, she was able to keep her strength instead of allowing. Because once you say it, then you invite the complainers.
But
Yeah,
I
well,
learned.
I don't believe it. You did that to me on purpose. You deliberately ruined my day. You invite that. I feel when we say certain things like that, like I'm sorry in those situations.
Yeah,
It's not that we're not apologetic. It's Don't get me wrong. It's not that we don't have remorse. People are doing their best, and if that was her best that day, well, so be it. The rest of us are going to have tolerance for
yeah,
that.
yeah. And it's
If we want this great world, we have to be it. We have to become it.
yeah. All right. So number 8, I think.
Number
Yeah,
8,
number 8.
when enough of us enter this evolutionary flow, always giving energy to the higher self of everyone we meet, we build a new culture where our bodies evolve to even higher levels of energy and perception. I believe that to be true also. As we're able to perceive new information, we're going to transform. We are evolving. And, fear not, it's all going to work out. It always
So
does.
so what he's actually talking about here is this group of everybody we meet is now at the level of being able to converse at the level of awareness. So a lot of the things that you used to have to explain or pre-explain, you don't even have to, because you're meeting people at the same vibration that got the same information, who've actually watched the same stuff and listened to the same stuff, and we've got this like joining of like-minded people. Now,
And
I,
telepathy,
I
I
don't.
think, is a big part of that. I think a lot of us are now able to perceive that telepathic, the knowing is part of the telepathy, when we're all singing the same song.
So this book is also a movie on YouTube called The Celestine Prophecy, and it's not particularly. It's a bit hammy. The whole movie. It's a bit slow and hammy, but it depicts this particular energy towards the end of the movie. It depicts it really, really well as in a visual format, and the way that they depict this is they're in a situation where the army's after them, and they get into a circle, and they basically do this kind of like mind blend of safety, put a safety net around them around each other and around themselves, each of them holding a mind frame of I'm safe, I'm grateful to be here, everything's fine. And the army literally come through and walk through the middle of them. They don't see them at all. And I think that the reason that they don't see them is because, just like an oscillation of a fan, that once the fan's oscillating that fast, you can no longer see it. So their vibration is so much higher than that of the army coming marching through, that the army has, it can't even see them, have no
They
awareness
can't.
of them. And
I
this is
believe
the
that
state.
because there's so much of what we've seen in our in in the last few years, people have no awareness, whereas others are uber focused up all night taking notes. Oh my gosh, how come they can't see it?
Mm-hmm.
We're having that experience real time.
Mm-hmm.
We're witnessing that where there's such vastly different perspectives about certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And the Mandela effect comes to mind. How is it that some of us perceive one title and or logo and then others see something completely different with false memory? What is that?
I don't know. I don't know what that is, but I experience it too. So I
Yes,
mean,
we all do. It's
yeah.
part of the experience that we're having.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and number 9, in this way, we participate in the long journey of evolution from the Big Bang. Don't believe in the Big Bang, but that's okay. To
Mhm.
life's ultimate goal, to energize our bodies generation by generation until we walk into heaven and we can finally see. Okay. Well,
This reminds me of the hermit, and it is the number 9, and it's holding of the lantern to light the way for all. and these are the lessons that we learn along the path.
Mm-hmm.
And from here, we jump to 10 and start all over again.
Mm-hmm.
The 1 + 0 becomes 1. And so we get to have a multi-dimensional experience here.
I can read the 10th if you want to read the 10.
Sure.
Okay.
Just have to zoom. Where did the 10th one go, Kim? The ultimate goal for humanity, is that the 10th one?
The
Is
10th,
to,
there are levels
sorry.
of consciousness beyond our own spiritual dimension.
Oh, I see. Thanks. And then
So,
we had a birth vision when we came into life. Hmm.
hmm,
That's the
and
central ideas of the 10th insight.
collectively, we are awakening to a world that's been held by our soul groups. Mm.
And we're realizing that we receive guidance from the spiritual or angelic realm. I think everybody has their own way of perceiving it.
I phase in and out with that.
Yeah,
And I phase in and out of where the guidance is coming from. So I'm a very, very big believer in where your focus goes grows. So, say for
I agree.
instance, if I'm listening to Michael Jackson music all day, then the guidance that I receive, I sense is coming from Michael Jackson. But if I'm, it sounds
That makes
ridiculous, right?
no, it's not. It's perfectly sensible to me.
But I've been
See,
listening to
there's that
music all day,
opposite. It's not ridiculous. It's how it is, though. It's whatever we're going to tune to, and we're going to attract more of it.
Exactly.
We're
So
magnetic.
if I'm reading the Bible all day today, then
More of
mm,
that.
more of that. So
It's our algol rhythm.
mm,
Algol,
the algorithm.
right?
So
Algol rhythm.
we are deeply connected to people we have relationships with, and some people we meet at turning points in our life.
It's true.
I tend to think that we only invite um, any type of relationship that we invite into our life is that is always to do with learning something, and it will only last as long as that lesson needs to be learned. But I also find that things like, say, when my mother died, I invited a friend into my life that was to finish off the lessons I didn't learn from my mother, the
Mm.
residual lessons. And she was only in my life until such time. And I could say she's quite like my mother, this woman. Um,
Well, and once more, we attract that, magnetically. It's, subconsciously, of course, it's what we're sort of expecting from others. We're looking for people to be like what we're familiar with.
okay. We are working to make the physical realm more spiritual. That's not
Yes.
I don't know that you can meld the two. I mean, you can certainly say that. I think they're two separate realms. So how you can blend the two, I don't know. Maybe it's the
To make
blending
it
of
more
five.
spiritual to me would be to just be, honoring it as we're trying to learn how to honor ourselves more. So to be, very careful about, yeah, how am I feeling? Well, how is the earth feeling? How is the material realm feeling? Are we putting too much of a strain on it? It seems pretty resilient to me. It's been around a long time.
I am a human being, not a human doer.
Yes. And that's, the awareness of being in the moment and asking yourself frequently, how does this feel? How am I doing? Does this feel right to me? What do I need to eat? Opposed to, you know, what, instead of eating, instead of living to eat to live. That's quite a different concept. We become more aware of what we're taking in, and what is it that I actually need, opposed to what is it that I want.
Right. So together, we're remembering the worldview is based on the core elements of the ageless wisdom. Mm. I don't know whether I agree with any of this worldview. being common because I don't come across very many people in my world that agree with my worldview.
No, but the worldview is based on, what does it say? Core elements in the ageless wisdom. So to me, it speaks of the it's the sciencey side of it. It's the alchemy. It's the four winds.
Mm.
It's the four elements. It's the four, the four
So
suits of the playing deck.
I woke up about 4 mornings ago with the being shown the four elements, being shown fire, air, water, and earth.
Which we know is
And
also the Merkaba. That's the shape of our Merkaba.
yeah,
That's what we're made of. That's who we are.
and what it was showing me was it's everywhere. Like it's been shown to us in everything. It was like it's one of these between sleeping and waking moments, but it's like it was showing me how visually the four elements are everywhere. Everything's made up of them. Even the relationships between me and you, fire and air. You're the passionate one. I'm the one that throws stuff on your fire. That
Yeah, that's okay. I need that because fire can get out of control, and we all need to work together. It's harmony that we're
I can
trying to
blow
seek.
you out too, though.
That's
I
right.
can add fume to you, or I can blow you out.
Correct.
What can you do to me as air? What
Oh
can
well,
fire do to air? You can eat me up,
fire.
can't you? You can eat me up,
Yeah, I could take all the oxygen out of the room.
right? Okay. So you just leave me there as a shivering mess.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that, Kim.
I know. Scary. All right.
Yeah,
So
no, we won't do that today.
well, we don't. That's the thing is we
No,
get to this level where we don't need to because we're not needing to steal the energy of each other because we in
no.
ourselves have contained. We've got to the level where we've got our own energy contained and we're using it in a good way to actually emphasize when we're working with the four elements how well that works when we work together with it. You get four
It's
people
in
in a
it
room.
it is in everything. And you can observe the differences in your family, for example, when you start to just look at it in pieces of four. It was the easiest way for me to learn the biodynamic gardening that I use. So I work with the moon in the garden, and there's a certain time to plant the seeds, and there's a certain time to harvest, and there's a time for everything, and it's based on the electromagnetic frequencies that we are still very unaware of, but are very much present of the ancient wisdom. It is alchemy.
Yeah.
It's being able to turn lead into gold. So you take what you've got and how can I make the most of it?
Mm.
It's knowing when to put that seed in the soil.
Mm. Okay, so we are learning to hold an intuition and to have faith that it is leading us to what the next point on our path. So I don't know, a lot. I mean, a few years ago, I used to kind of think, well, where's my path? What is it I'm meant to be doing? And I was left in this sort of like state of limbo of not really knowing what the next thing to do is.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know how many people are still in this stage of limbo of like, where do I go from here? What's the next thing that I need to do? I'm sure some people are still there in that limbo stage. And the only thing that I can say that carried me through that limbo stage and put me back on the path was writing down writing down my pure intent, writing
Yes.
down what my pure intent was. And then that way I'm communicating with the higher authority saying, well, I'm ready for this. I'm ready to utilize what I feel I know and go to the next level with it. Can you assist me in the guidance to guide me in that direction? And it wasn't until I started to do and write my pure intents, my I've got a video on it that I did. I'll actually link it. It's one of my
I
really
think
early
it's a
videos.
really, I think it's a very important subject because it really does connect us to the essence of who we are, or that highest authority. You know, what is it that guides us? And so it's important for us to be able to listen and become curious with that wisdom and ask, is this right for me? Ask those kinds of open questions, you know, yes, no, show me, how can I? And but be patient. Sometimes you're not supposed to know. Sometimes, sometimes it's not the right time for you to know.
Yeah,
You know, and I remember feeling very, come on, show me everything all at once. And then I remember one particularly challenging moment where I said, well, thanks for not giving me more than that. I don't think I can
yeah,
handle much more than
yeah,
that.
yeah,
You know, so it is a lot to digest as we become more aware and of our role here. And what could potentially be our, obviously we're looking at alternative histories. We can, I think, pretty clearly see that the histories that we've been, sort of believing are proving to be a theory. Like every other theory, there's no actual, there's no
yeah,
details. It's all headlines. They say
yeah,
the devil's in the details. Well, a lot of
yeah,
the details are gibberish
yeah,
or non-existent.
yeah. Oh,
It's
yeah,
just what they wrote on the plaque and what
yeah,
we memorized and said
yeah,
over and over and over again until
yeah,
it stuck.
yeah.
So that's the
Verbatim.
indoctrination, verbatim. We can memorize it. We've got so much stuff, useless information in there that's proven to be fake and or just a theory.
Right. So the next one is what we want, and I don't like the word want, but what we want exists first in our minds, hearts, and becomes a reality through holding that intention.
As you were
So
saying. Yeah,
yeah, I really do think that where our focus goes grows, and what we focus our energy onto becomes our reality. So I
absolutely agree.
absolutely agree with that one. So the next one, after leaving the body at death, we will review every episode of our lives, and we will clearly be able to see and feel how much love we were able to give others in every encounter. Well, like, there's no way of proving that one till we die. So
No, I agree with that as well, Kim.
you could
How
say
can
anything.
we know? It's a nice thought,
Yeah,
and but it feels nice, and I guess we'll all eventually find out. I mean, it's not like we ever get to escape this.
yeah,
It's something we're all going to get to do,
yeah.
and that's something else I think we should attempt to normalize. You know, why not have a why not have a more light filling, a celebration of life. Like we see this evolution of that type of a ceremony opposed to, deep grieving. We are grateful for the time that we shared with our loved ones. And we know that our time is limited. And we don't pretend that, oh, we'll have always tomorrow, because we don't.
So the ultimate goal for humanity is to merge the material and spiritual dimensions. Um, could
I
be.
agree with
I've
that.
got a real thing about fire and ice for some reason. I don't know how that could relate to fire and ice. But I've got this real big thing about this reality. What's going to happen in this reality is we're going to merge fire and ice.
That feels like plasma to me. I've had an image of plasma already. I can see the plasma that like I've got an image of what the plasma looks like at this moment, and it's not as frenetic. So for me, the plasma is like shooting like a solar flare inside of a plasma ball. And yeah, it was at the beginning of the year, it was chaos. And now it's a lot less chaotic. That image that I hold, that I'm able to see, I see it as being a lot less chaotic, but still, we're in a state of creation right now. That's what being in the Merkaba is all about. It's the it's the blending of the higher and lower energies. It's the material and spiritual dimensions. It's bringing it in, it's accepting each other for who we are, you know, allowing each other to be not okay right now.
Yeah,
We don't have to always be okay right now. And that's just part of the journey. It's accepting and choosing what vibration do I want to bring with me, because that's what I will attract to me. So knowing that we are we're all in the same ship, as you say, Kim,
Mm-hmm.
the kinship.
Mm-hmm. We're in the
And
kinship.
so we create that energy worldwide.
All right. So, in conclusion, the reason that we kind of wanted to make this was to say that every now and again I revisit these to see, as I said, each time I do it, it means something different to me. It's like it says something different, or some of
Mhm.
the insights I've integrated don't feel different anymore. But it was just to kind of look at touch base on what this book was talking about, because I really do have a feeling that this book, the Celestine Prophecy, even though it's not particularly well written, it was just simple, just like, almost a fairy tale,
I
uh,
agree.
with stories embedded in it.
And it
Um,
helped to awaken our imaginations, I think.
yes, but I think it was for the time. I think those people that read it now maybe won't get the same hit of it, because a lot of this information in it wasn't out there. It was completely new to us. Whereas we've now had 30 years to absorb this.
Oh, and there's so
And
many creators and influencers and so many of us now, like you and I, talking about this type of thing. So the content, there's an endless stream of content now, opposed to 10 years ago. Good luck finding good resources that were off of the mainstream, out of the mainstream, like not on the news. It was, I don't know,
so
it was obviously a very different world just 10 years ago.
for some reason, I'm feeling this necessity to say to people, try to be mindful, not to be defensive.
Yes.
That's one of the biggest, hardest things not to be, because that takes away from the ego. It's the ego that wants to defend you, and it just
Yes.
isn't necessary. I, I had quite a lot of comments in the last one of the previous videos we did about it not being necessary for us to get rid of our ego. And I agree, we need our ego at times, because our ego is our driving force. It might even be the energy that makes us kind of like get out of bed in the morning. But the important thing about the ego is to be mindful of when you're being driven by it.
Well, the ego can become angry, I feel. And so the ego, you're right. And I think it's something that we are wise to become more aware of. What is that energy? Is it what drives us? Yes, I think it is. I think it's that inner child. I think it's the solar plexus. This
Uh,
is the energy. That's where the bulk of it comes from. It's the orphan within each of us.
mhm.
So the orphan can still be a bit combative because, well,
What
we're
about
orphans
me?
and we're just trying to survive.
Mhm,
Exactly. And so it can be a little tone of jealousy. It can be just simple survival.
mhm,
Like I have to get to the front of the line or you'll forget about me.
mhm.
So there it's that kind of many layers of the ego, I feel. And this is why I don't feel it's necessary to kill the ego per se. I think it's important for us to listen
And
to the
manage
ego.
it.
What is it that you need?
Mhm,
Why do you think you need that? You
mhm,
know, and to become as familiar with that part of who we are as we all seek to become so familiar with our spirit.
mhm,
The ego doesn't belong in the spiritual realms,
mhm.
and this is something unique to this experience that we're having. So how do we have a healthy ego? And I think it's through balancing those two masculine and feminine forces of energy. It's balancing the left and the right brain and being in the middle, like the yin yang, where those two forces of energy, just like when they say flat, round, I say no, it's like more like the yin yang. It's like those two forces of energy that come together and meet in the middle. We are the middle. We are the in between.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important, or they're I think this is what they're trying to say about not necessarily merging, because I don't think you can merge fire and ice. But this is what I get from that, is that it's about allowing. It's about saying, okay, you be there and I'll be here, and we meet in the middle, and this is where we have common ground. And what can we build in that middle? This is why we are the builders. This is why we've got this realm. What
Mm,
will we do with it?
that's good.
Mm,
Right. I'm going to cut you off now.
perfect. I don't think I can. I got nothing else. That's it. We hit 9. We went to 10, actually, didn't we?
Yeah, we hit 10 actually. We went beyond 9.
That was
Thank you very
fun,
much
Tim.
for
Nice,
listening.
nice looking at that. Thank you.
Mm, thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
All right. You take care and we'll be with you soon. And any comments, share them. Remember to like and subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. And um, thanks for listening. See ya. Bye.
Yeah, fun.
Bye.
Bye. There. Oh.